I'm Connor Northrup. I'm joined by Bellator bantamweight Ricky Bandejas, who headlines Bellator 242 against Sergio Pettis this Friday, August 24th. What's up, Ricky?
How you doing, man? Thank you for having me.
Good. Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. And one thing that was just like when you think about this fight with like Sergio too is like back in 2018 when you signed with Bellator. I mean, you had to be thinking about like fighting guys like this eventually, making your way up the ranks too, facing a guy like that. I mean, am I wrong? Like, was that kind of like what you were thinking about when you signed with Bellator?
Absolutely. It's a big promotion, so they have some of the most elite guys, in the world. And somebody like Sergio, who was in the UFC and he has credible wins. He was ranked top 10, top 5. So this is definitely makes you go a step in the right direction.
Yeah. What's it mean for you too to kind of be in this headliner spot too? Does that add anything to the whole experience for you?
It's awesome. When you start this journey of being an MMA fighter, it's an end goal of wanting to be a main event. And on top of it, it's a huge opportunity. More eyes will be on me than ever. And to fight a guy like Sergio is going to make it that much sweeter.
Yeah. About when did you realize that it was going to be a main? Like, did you know that from as soon as like you heard Sergio's name that you were going to be the main event?
Yeah, a good couple weeks now. This was all like pretty much last minute with announcing the fight and where the fight's going to be. But I knew a little bit ahead of time.
Yeah. Is it kind of weird for you too because you were on that last Bellator card before this whole thing and now you're on the first one back?
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I'm happy about that. I was on the last card, then Corona hit, and I'm on the first card back. So I'm in a good boat.
Yeah. And after your last fight too, I remember in the post fight you kind of mentioned about some of those SBG guys too, and maybe wanting to fight them. You had a little rivalry. Like, did any of those names come up before Pettis, or was it kind of just strictly like Pettis was the name you got?
That's the name they Oh, sorry. That was the name they called and sent. So I don't say no to fight, so I took it. But I know there's a couple other guys over there that are looking to fight in the fall. So as long as everything goes right, they could be next.
Yeah. So you're definitely not putting that rivalry to bed just yet.
No, never.
And yeah, and with Sergio too. I mean, a guy who's fought some of the best in the world. Like, how do you feel like you stack up against a guy like that?
I think I stack against him well. It's a good test because, like you just said, he fought some of the best guys in the world. Former champs and number one contenders, and so I'm excited. I think I'm gonna. I just think overall I'm a better fighter.
Yeah. Where do you feel like Sergio kind of compares to maybe some of the other guys you fought in Bellator so far?
Um, his stand-up's really well, and I fought a guy who had over 200 kickboxing fights, so he had stand-up that's really well, and he's a good submission guy, which Gallagher was a good submission guy. So I've definitely faced guys like him before.
Yeah. And up to this point, I mean, you also talk about like Sergio striking too, but with the way you've been going lately too, and especially everyone talks about that Gallagher fight, obviously, but do you feel like you're one of the elite strikers in that division?
I don't, but my wife always reminds me. We have a lot of knockouts, and we're one of the elite strikers, and guys are going to be nervous to stand up with me. So, because sometimes I don't give myself credit. I'm looking to always wrestle.
Yeah. And I saw on Instagram too, actually, that you're a Disney annual pass holder. I just want to get your take on like this thing, like with the theme parks and everything, like kind of coming back, especially in Florida. I know like Universal is too. Like, what's kind of your take on that? Like, do you feel like it's too soon, or are you kind of okay with it?
No, I think it's cool. The only thing is you won't catch me there because you have to wear a mask. So that's insane. In Florida, it's hot, and then outside, and then you throw kids in the mix. That's a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say like what is it like too, like having to wear the mask and that kind of not even just that heat, but like that humidity too down in Florida.
Absolutely. And then you're gonna have terrible. You're gonna have a tan on your face of a square. So it's a nightmare.
Yeah. And before we get back into fighting, one more Disney question too is like I know the big news kind of sweeping that is like the whole thing with like Splash Mountain, they're obviously changing that. What's your kind of take on that?
I think that's Splash Mountain was when I was younger and I used to go. So
Yeah.
but they're changing everything, the castle name, and it's moving on to the newer generation. But
Yeah.
I wish they wouldn't do that.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure on Instagram I saw too that you and your wife are having your fourth child, so congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And like just what like the three kids you have now too, like what was it difficult like with quarantine and everything, like having like kind of little ones?
No, not for my family specifically. My kids are, my oldest is homeschooled, and my other two don't go to school yet. They're still too young. So it was no different than any other day.
Yeah. And now, I mean, I think it's been well, it's coming up on a year since you moved from Jersey to Florida with American Top Team 2. What's that journey kind of been like for you so far?
It's exciting, and it's been enjoyable. It was a big step, big jump, but it's been paying dividends. So I'm happy that I did it.
Yeah. I mean, does it feel like it's kind of like flown by? Does it feel like it's been almost a year?
No, it does not. It feels like I don't really even remember being here a couple months, but it's definitely flying by, and Florida has became my new normal.
Yeah. What's been like some of the biggest, I guess, like changes that you kind of overcame, I guess, in this last year?
Um, well, moving to Florida, just a lot of rain, and it's always hot. And
Yeah.
then the holidays, these holidays at least, we just moved here, so we were just simple with us and the kids. But normally I'm with my family, but they're in Jersey.
Hmm. How far do you feel like you've come along as a fighter since making that change?
I think I came a long way. My biggest aspect in growing, I think I did mentally, because I'm mixing up with the best guys in the world, and I get to see where I stand.
Yeah. And like just being American Top Team 2, I remember like I talked to you when you were making that move. Or talking about that, you want to just mixed up with more elite, bantamweights too. So like, who are some of those guys that you've been working with, quite regularly?
Uh, this fight camp, just a guy named Randy Costa, with the whole Corona,
Hmm.
and smaller. But in the past, just guys like Pedro Munoz is one. Um, the list goes on. There's literally everybody in there is elite. They're all in top-notch organizations.
Yeah. What was the kind of like what was training like too with this? Because I know there was some positive cases too, like from American Top Team and that kind of thing. So like, were you training a lot in the gym, or did you kind of have to do that? Like, I know some people are doing their garages, things like that. Like, how'd your training camp, I guess, like unfold?
Like the gym, like normal. They had it running smooth. They had a little hiccup. They took care of it, and they had their class. They kept them small. And like I said, I had a good partner for this fight, so my camp was nothing short than what it normally is.
Yeah. And who'll be cornering you this fight?
King Mo Muhammad, and my cousin Corey Manafra, and my dad.
Oh, awesome. And then just going back to Sergio too, I mean, when you look at that fight too, I mean, is there anything that like, I mean, what would you say is his biggest threat?
Um, he has quick submissions, and he's really fast on his feet. He has good counters. He's good all around. It's going to come down to who makes the more mistakes and who makes them first.
Yeah. When you get a guy who kind of comes over from the UFC too and to Bellator, I mean, is there any like, do you get a little extra excited for that too, just to be able to test a guy that, I mean, I think at one point he was probably in that top 15 spot.
Absolutely. I think before he left, they had him ranked at number 2 or number
Hmm.
3. Huge. So it's definitely motivation and excitement to get in there and mix it up with a guy like that.
Yeah. And speaking of the rankings too, I was just kind of like looking at Topology the other day, and I noticed that at CFFC 43 you had fought Mirab Divashvili, which is kind of crazy to think about because I know he's in that top 15 now too. You're obviously fighting Sergio in a main event this weekend. I mean, do you ever like think about like fighting some of these guys? Like I know you fought Tony Gravely too, and just like how far, I mean, not only you've come, but them as well.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. These guys I beat, one, they're achieving their dreams, which is awesome for anybody. And two, we beat them. So the better they do, I feel like the better it looks like on me.
Yeah. And then as far as going up, I mean, any excitement about going back up, northeast a little bit? I know it's not New Jersey, but a little farther. But
What do you mean, the fight?
yeah, because it's gonna be in Connecticut.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice. My dad and cousin, they drove from Jersey. I flew, but it's nice being in the mix. But I wish Corona wasn't around because I'd head back to Jersey and hang out for a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Now, as far as like just fighting an empty arena too, what's kind of your like feeling behind that? Is that like, I mean, are you a person that feeds a lot off the crowd?
I don't know, man. I don't think I do, but now that they're going to be absent, we'll see how I feel about it. Definitely think that's a little odd. It's going to be real quiet, so it's exciting to see how this is going to play out.
Yeah. And when Bellator still like wasn't kind of back yet, like during this whole pandemic thing, were you one of the guys like were you and your managers kind of like in their ears like, hey, like when you guys have a card, we want to be the first on?
No, I was just hanging out, enjoying my time off. Corona, I wasn't in a rush to get back, and then my management called with this fight, and can't say no to any fight, let alone a big name like this.
Yeah. What was kind of like your reaction like to that?
Figures, because normally I'm in their ear, rushing, begging for a fight. Let me in. I want to fight because I stay active. So the first time I'm like, oh, I'll hang out. I'll let this all unfold. And then comes my way that we have a fight. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. That had to feel pretty good on your end, too. I mean, they're coming to you now.
Oh, you never know. Maybe my manager was hassling them, but either way, we fight, and I'm very happy with
it. Yeah. All right, Ricky. Well, I mean, before I let you go, anything you want to say? The floor is yours.
Nothing, man. I'm gonna say thank you for having me, and just shout out to my sponsors and my management and all my friends and family that follow the journey. You included, for always every fight you're reaching out, and I appreciate that.